Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
All right, please note that the language and ideas presented on the show might not be suitable for everyone. If you're under 18, make sure your mom isn't around. If you're over 80, why is your mom around?
You're listening to Cyrus Says.
All right, we've got Ayaz Memon, journalist and commentator, but more importantly, cricket connoisseur. The last of the throwbacks, the ones who really love cricket. The Indian Neville Card, as some will say. There he goes, Ayaz Memon, coming into bat.
Why follow your auntie's advice when you can follow Cyrus Says on Facebook and Twitter to stay updated about the latest shows?
Okay, that's it. Indian women and jeans. By the way, this is Cyrus Says. I have to speak about this. I cannot bear it anymore. Indian women have lovely figures. Please wear the right jeans. They never get the right size. They're so insecure about themselves. They wear these huge jeans and you don't see anything. Not that you should see anything because that's against our culture. But for God's sake, you have a nice figure. Wear tight-fitting jeans. Please understand. Don't have lower self-esteem. I blame the men for that. Indian men, you should wear curtains. Forget jeans. But Indian women, wear the right jeans. We always get the size wrong. It's called Cyrus Says.
And that's what Cyrus says.
All right, on Cyrus Says, in the house, we have Ayaz Memon, veteran. Well, he hates that word, won't say that. Fellow Xavierite, couple of years my senior, is that better? Sports journalist. I like to think of him as the last generation of serious, die-in-the-wool sort of sports journalists. The ones who went and, attended all kinds of things. Like I keep reminding you, when we were swimming in school and stuff, we would see you around with your pad. I mean, I don't want to romanticize it, but I know, in a way, I feel the whole journalist experience is just last few years just disappeared, and it's all this. But where have those old journalists gone with their little pens and papers or following everybody around?
Cyrus, the drill has changed. I mean, what we were called Maidan journalists, in the sense that we had to spend time in the Maidan. You couldn't come back and say, you haven't got a story. It was imperative that you got at least some story a day, and nobody gave you an opportunity to go and cover a test match or a hockey international or the
You had to work your way to a test match. It's literally like being a cricketer. You had to go through the grades.
So just to give you an example of what it meant in those days, the late Sundararajan, who was sports editor of the Times of India, actually became the sports editor at the age of 50. And today you'll find that sports editors are in their
retired by 43.
No, I mean, look, I was also lucky in the sense that I got to edit a magazine when I was 29, 30, which was Sports Week magazine. But for the first 8 years...
I love Sports Week, Ayaz. What happened?
Well, the magazines died, so there's no sports magazines.
Maybe I think I'm digging into my own past as a young man.
Yeah.
And I just missed that whole era because I would wait for Sports Week and see who was on the cover and cut out Viv Richards, my favorite, and all that,
So that was the big thrill, even for us journalists producing the magazines, to get these centerfolds, a full blow-up of a cricketer or a footballer, or and especially if you had a foreign player, whose transparency, what we call the transparency, the color pictures, would be so difficult to get because they would come from overseas. But obviously things change. Before the digital revolution, it was television which changed the rules of the game. Sports magazines, because they used to come out once a week, some once a month.
Well, Sports Week should have done once a week, otherwise it makes no sense. Yeah. But I won't dwell on that for a second. I remember Vishwanath at 114 in Melbourne in, I think, 80-81, when we actually squared the series.
Yes.
A couple got 5 wickets in the end.
Incidentally, the match in which Gavaskar almost staged a walkout.
Well, he did. He actually walked and he was pushed back in. Yes, he didn't cross the line in the end.
I think his one leg was in the air when he was pushed back.
What was Vengsarkar doing at one drop? Was he in? Was he not in?
Well, he was also pushed in.
Oh, that's hilarious. So, let's understand the physicality of this. So the manager was Bapu Nadkarni. Who was the manager?
The Lieutenant Colonel Durrani was there.
Lieutenant Colonel Durrani. So he was handling the movement.
Well, he realized, I think somebody realized in the dressing room that if Gavaskar stages a walkout, then you've actually
lose the game.
You've lost the match. You've conceded the match. So, and he was, actually, it's not that Gavaskar couldn't step off the field. It was Chetan Chauhan, who was the non-striker, who had to remain on the field.
Right.
So Gavaskar
so both can't go. He was taking Chetan off. You're right. Now that you mentioned.
So Gavaskar was pulled out and Vengsarkar was shoved in.
But what Chetan, who never got 100, God bless him, must have been thinking today is a good day. They were both in their 70s, I think, by then.
Yes,
right. So today was a good day, and he was being pulled off.
Yeah, well, that it was Gavaskar who was there, so I don't think Chetan Chauhan had a choice.
Yeah, no choice. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, the romance of cricket from those days when people behaved like children. But to give it to Gavaskar as a Mumbaiker, that's how we play our cricket. If you give me out, I take my bat and my stumps and I leave, and nobody can play after that. So
no, I mean, look, there's no doubt that Gavaskar's not just a great Bombay cricketer or a great India cricketer, is one of the all-time greats. If you have to,
legend of all time.
Legend of all times.
Yeah.
in my opinion,
And it was his first innings of note in that particular
in
series.
that particular
This is rare
series,
for him.
Yes, I think he was riled by two things. One was that he was not getting runs. The other was that he was
Lily.
getting, he was getting sledged incessantly.
What would you say to Gavaskar? What would Lily say to him anyway? I mean, it's not like this is the only series he'll make runs. I mean, before, after.
So Lily, when he was straight-laced, had a very limited vocabulary. But when Lily sledged, his vocabulary flourished. So yeah, I'm sure he said a lot of things to Gavaskar, which Gavaskar... Not that Gavaskar didn't have a fantastic vocabulary himself. But I think he was trying very hard to concentrate on, making some runs there. I think he made 17.
Well, let's not forget he was given out and he felt the ball was going down leg or his bat touched it or something like that. And so that was another problem. He was 78, batting.
Yeah, so what he says is that he did contest the appeal. Nowadays you would get fined.
Yeah.
He did contest the appeal. The umpire said, no, you're out. And he was about to walk off when Lily let loose a barrage of abuses.
Followed by a few others as well.
Followed
Typical
by a few
Australian,
others.
the dingo culture altogether.
That's when he says something cracked. And I spoke to him on his 60th birthday.
Yeah, and he's still angry.
No, but what I asked him about, Cyrus, which is the moment you regret?
Yeah.
He's made 36 of 60 deliveries in the World
You
Cup.
never mentioned that to him.
I did. I said, which is the... So he said, not that, but the moment when I almost walked off the field, because that would have cost us the match, in a terrible sort of way, which no cricketer wants to do by conceding a match.
Yeah.
So
There's
that was what he
also the
felt.
Jon Snow incident. We'll dwell on that a little later. But I want to go back to you because this is more about you than just the cricketers who, of course, is what made you in many ways. Cricket is your sport. But let's go back to the early days. So you're a Xavierite?
Yes.
And then how does Ayaz Memon become a journalist? And tell us what the hard grind was in the beginning.
So, I mean, I made a very, aborted attempt at doing science. Then I did arts. I did economics. And
But that must be a big come down for the parents and family, no?
It was a
because
big come down
science
for
is
me.
something in arts in those days I can imagine.
Exactly. I mean, the big kick in life in those days was you have to be an engineer or a doctor. I mean, that
MSc. Nobody thought it through though. What can you do with an MSc?
Exactly.
Lab attendant.
And arts was considered to be like what girls do, 3-4 years.
And we
then,
both are proud BAs.
Yes. And then my father was a lawyer. So
My father's a lawyer.
Yes. So
Amazing.
I fairly reluctantly got into law school, Government Law College.
I also went.
Yes. Excellent. So this.
Did you do the 6 o'clock morning where you sleep through the first 3 hours?
But
Fantastic.
while I was studying law and not very seriously, I did, a course in a diploma in XIC, which is Xavier's Institute of Communications, Journalism. And frankly, I was hanging loose. I didn't know what the hell to do. I said, chalo, theek hai, yahan pe at least hang around with.
But you were crazy about sports.
I was always crazy about sport. But while I was there, I got a job at Sports Week. And when I got a
as
job
a reporter or just as a
sub-editor come reporter.
Okay.
You have to do both. You have to make the pages as well as go and, write on stories. And then obviously the sister publication was Midday.
Right.
So I got more opportunities
Was it
to
Khalid?
write.
Who was the guy? Who was the person you had to meet and all that?
Khalid Ansari. But the guy who was also there was Ron Hendricks. So there were two doyens of sport there. And the third was a madcap Bawa who was completely crazy about sports. That was Behram Contractor.
Wow, yeah, he loved his cricket.
So he was not the editor then. He was the chief reporter, but he always was absolutely, obsessed by sport. So when you came back from the Maidan and he used to do the diary page for Midday, he would always unfailingly ask you, Aj, what is the story today? Is there anything that I can put in diary? And you gave him a small anecdote from a Maidan or whatever. He would refine it, put it down in his own inimitable way, and the next day when you read it, it was like, wow.
But as you grew up on your heroes, who were your heroes? Would I be right in saying the Vijay Manjrekar era and just beyond that?
So
up to Gavaskar?
So yeah, I mean, look, the sporting heroes were many, but I must first mention the three guys who actually pushed me into journalism, so to speak. Khalid Ansari, because he used to bring out the magazine and he used to write these fiery pieces.
I loved his writing as a young
fantastic.
boy. And the English was far too prosaic for most of us to understand.
Then there was Ron Hendricks, who was a master craftsman.
Sounds like a West Indian though. It's a Hendricks but with a different first name.
I'll tell you a little story about Ron Hendricks. And the third was K.N. Prabhu, who I thought was
the legend.
The legend. And he actually kind of sparked off.
He was your mentor in a sort.
Not a mentor, but he was the inspiration for cricket writing. Mm-hmm. And while I was doing law and I got this job at Sports Week, which I thought I'll continue till I finish law and maybe I'll do law later. I found that they were actually...
This is how we've treated law in India for the last 200 years.
Exactly.
We'll do law later. We'll figure out the law later. Let's just get on with it. Yeah.
Then I found that I was being paid money to go and watch cricket matches. Even if it was a Ranji match or a a universities match. And I said, wow, this is fantastic. Yeah, this is something.
So do you remember the first game, the first class game that you had to cover?
The first game which I remember, which was a major game, which I actually didn't report upon, I didn't write on, but I got access to the match, was the Jubilee Test match, India versus England.
Where Botham, where Vishwanath called back Bob Taylor?
Absolutely.
What are you saying?
Yes. Botham's match.
Botham's game, bat and ball.
114, I think he made.
140. Was he fantastic?
He was fantastic.
And he swung the ball?
One entire session he bowled non-stop. He took 13 wickets in the match.
Apparently he was decently quick also in those days.
He was decently quick. So that was like that more or less made up my mind that if I'm getting paid, and the money wasn't much. My first salary was 375 rupees.
This is what we get for the podcast. It makes you feel better.
So, this was kind of the background.
But lawyer background and all, I'm just thinking, typical upper middle class sort of background in urban Bombay. Who would be comfortable with you being a journalist? The parents would have been scared?
So my father had died by then. I was, with my mother, who was a homemaker. So she didn't have she was very keen that I be a lawyer.
She didn't have a view that this is dangerous.
She had a view that I should be a lawyer because your father was also a lawyer, and it's like some family business which should continue. I said, look, I'm not interested. So I did a lot of reporting from, the Harris Shield, the Giles Shield, and local Ranji matches.
So you sit in the hot sun, you with no tent, nothing, and watch boys whose names you can hardly remember, and you write down the notes, you look at the scorecard, you actually write.
You write it,
a story,
and you write it, and you go back to the office. You've written about 400 words, which you think is masterclass, and then 2.5 paras appear with brief scores.
Yeah.
So the desk was also ruthless, but fantastically ruthless because you learnt a lot from them. Otherwise writers think that they're Shelley and Shakespeare.
There you go.
And then, you write reams and reams when actually it's a tabloid paper.
I'm just thinking, how spoiled are you now with your computer and your air conditioning, your leisure, and you can watch from your studio, or you're covering matches, the commentators, so you got the first-hand report compared to those Maidan days and the hot sun with people you don't know, and you matches simultaneously in Mumbai at least being parallel games going on.
So I think, look, the comfort levels have gone up because this, sport has become an industry, and, everything else, like it's gone up for players. I think it's become far more workable for everybody around. But I still have the same, I like to run around. If there's a press conference with the captain, I want to be there. I want to see what's happening. What is he saying? Maybe I'm not, how do I say, starry-eyed.
Well, that's because that generation is gone for you. These are young kids. What do you care? You've seen it all. I mean, you've seen Viv Richards. What the hell do you care about the rest? That's what I always say. But no, going back to, is there any sport you didn't like? I mean, we all love sports, those who like sports. But there's always one or two you don't. Perhaps a billiards match. Would you ever think, oh God, what am I doing here?
So I wanted, billiards. Since you mentioned billiards, I must mention the story about the late Ron Hendricks, who was a great scribe. So he was fond of the,
Wilson Jones era.
Wilson Jones era, but he loved his evening tipple.
Fair enough.
And sometimes it became tipples.
Triple tipples.
And there was a big match. I think it was Mohammad Lafir, the Sri Lankan QS world champion, and I forget the other billiards player's name, but he didn't land up.
What are you saying?
He didn't land up. And, it turned out to be a humdinger. Edge of the seat kind of finish.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what the hell, and there was no TV, there was nothing you could watch replays.
Right.
So by the time he reached office and, he realized that he had to
get the details,
and he got the details from another veteran journalist in those days.
Of another publication.
Of the same publication, ATP Sarthi, who also became sports editor of the Indian Express then. And Sarthi sat down and explained in detail what a great match it was. And Ron Hendricks' first line was, "Were you there to watch Mohammad Lafir beat so-and-so?" So I think a lot of these journalists who I'm talking about, whether it's a Khalid Ansari or KN Prabhu or Ron Hendricks, they love to be in the thick of it.
Let me ask you a difficult question.
Yeah.
For you as a young cub reporter then, not now. Now, obviously, perhaps your opinion would have changed. Who was your favorite writer?
From India?
Let's start with India first. You had KN Prabhu, you had Khalid Ansari, Behram would throw a little bit on cricket here and there. Yeah. There were many other writers as well. So was there anyone?
For me, KN Prabhu was the epitome of great cricket writing.
And outside, Neville Cardis.
I think I like Jack Fingleton also. I read a lot
Brighty
of Jack
Face the Dawn, one of my favorite books.
Apart from the book, he used to write for the Hindu.
Yeah.
And though
he wrote for the Hindu?
Oh, yes. And we used to get
We outsourced our writers even then. Damn you!
And we used to get copies of the Hindu 2 or 3 days later.
How the hell did they get Jack Fingleton?
The Hindu had a very strong tradition of sports writing. Mm-hmm. In fact, the editor who was there earlier, N. Ram, started his career within his own paper as a sports writer.
Oh,
so
excellent.
they had a great, kind of fondness for
So
sports.
Jack Singleton would be covering what?
He would be covering
Australia playing somebody.
or when India went to Australia.
Correct.
So he was one of the finest writers that we've seen.
Never got along with Don Bradman, am I right?
Never got along
But
with Don
always
Bradman.
admired him, but hated him. It's a bit like Miyandar Imran Khan.
Yes. Yeah, but Miyadar doesn't write like Jack Singleton.
But let's not get into that part of it. But I mean, there's an admiration, but there's no personal love.
Yeah, I mean, that, is so common in dressing rooms. It's
Yeah.
so common because...
I'm dying to ask you the Gavaskar Kapil Dev story, but I'm sure you'll never tell us.
No, I can't tell you. No, but my point is this, that in any dressing room, there are 11 individuals. It's not like...
It's like the big boss house at the end of the
Exactly.
day. How
And-
can people get along?
No, and there's more camaraderie than we imagine. And there is, also more friction than we imagine. Because these people have, you have to help the team. The other is you have to help your own career. There are people you like.
And there are cliques.
There are cliques. And there are also, some guys, the chemistry just doesn't work. But you're still in the same dressing room. What do you do? So you have to cohabit. And I think those who are mature enough and kind of work out a certain livable relationship are those who actually thrive. I mean, ultimately, you have to survive also.
How did Imran do it, Ayaz? How did Imran control? Firstly, there was no way they could empathize with being Imran. He comes from a regal background, very well educated. He would treat them apparently like, people one step below him in society. How did Imran hold Pakistan together, a team which is really possibly the most difficult to captain?
So, I think he was, he had an imperious presence. He was a very, as you mentioned, a regal man, but actually he was not from a filthy rich family or a filthy rich background. I think his father was, in the government somewhere. Maybe they had land holdings and stuff like that. So that's why he went to Oxbridge and studied there. In fact, all three cousins went.
Majid Khan as well.
Majid Khan,
Javed Burki.
and Imran Khan, sons of three sisters.
Right.
All three went to Oxbridge. All three captained Pakistan. So there was a certain kind of tradition which was there in Pakistan cricket where Oxbridge, players became captains, starting from Abdul Hafiz Kardar. So there was a certain imperiousness about him. But I think what people liked, the players especially, that he never asked anybody to do anything which he wasn't prepared to do. He wouldn't go and tell a player, now you have to go and show, how you have to go and show courage. He would go and show courage himself first. Like happened in the 1992 World Cup in the sunset of his career, where he promoted himself in the batting order. The team was struggling. Then he started going at number 3 and the team stopped struggling and they won the title.
Yeah.
So these were the kind of things.
It was also a little matter of Wasim Akram being just far and away the best bowler in the world, but we won't get into that.
Yeah. And also I think he was very objective in his approach to the game at least. So I don't know if I've written about the story that in 1982-83, which was my first ever tour,
India to Pakistan?
Pakistan.
Where we lost 3-0.
We lost 3-0. We lost
Gavaskar carried
badly.
his bat in one of the games.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Imran took 40 wickets.
40
in that
wickets and
series.
Jimmy Amarnath got the runs first, right?
Jimmy Amarnath got 500 plus runs.
Yeah.
But Majid Khan, who was his first cousin, was a few runs short of becoming the highest scorer for Pakistan in Test cricket, in Test history. Hanif Mohammad had held the record. He'd had a poor tour of England in 1982. And, there was pressure on Imran and the selectors, take him. So in the 5th Test match, after the series was decided, Majid Khan was included in the team. Unfortunately for him, there were overcast conditions in Lahore and Kapil Dev was,
Swinging the ball.
like a banana.
Sounds vulgar, but fun. Kapil Dev's banana coming soon, yeah.
So he played maybe 8 or 9 deliveries. I don't think he touched a single delivery. He was beaten every time. Of the 9th delivery, he was caught behind. And we used to have a rest day in those
Correct.
days. And Ziaul Haq, the president of Pakistan, had a party on the 3rd day, rest day, for both the teams. And at that party, Imran Khan came and asked Gavaskar. We were all, I happened to be part of that group. He asked Gavaskar, in his drawl.
baritone, Sonny bhai.
Sonny bhai, was it an edge? वो Majid out था या नहीं? Or sometimes it can happen. The umpires got wrong. So Sonny said, you should ask Kiddy because he took the catch. He'll know best. So Kiddy said, क्या मियाँ एमी वो तो 100% out था. And the next match, 6th Test match, series has been decided. Majid Khan was dropped. The reason being, which he mentioned there, he says if it's an umpiring
Error, he gets
error,
another chance?
he gets another chance. Otherwise,
Cousin or no cousin? No. So do they talk?
they don't talk still.
What are you saying? This is the subcontinent, man. It's hilarious.
32 or 33 years now.
Because of being dropped a few runs short of the Hanif Mohammad record.
Yes.
But to drop your cousin.
But it tells you something about Imran's, cricketing character.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, he was a very brave man. He was a leader in the real sense of the term. And I think he's been amongst the strongest influences on the game. I mean,
Best captain that you saw close up?
by a mile. I mean, I didn't see Frank Worrell captain the team.
Ian Chappell?
I would put Imran ahead because, imagine leading a bunch of 10 other Pakistanis, all
Steve Waugh?
volatile. No, I would, I personally rate even Saurav Ganguly on par, if not better than Steve Waugh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So Imran, far and away, we'll leave Worrell out of it, but Imran number one.
And not just that, look at the contribution to the sport. India versus Pakistan, 1989-90, the test series in which Tendulkar made his debut.
Right.
What does he do? He asked for neutral umpires playing in Pakistan. India had never beaten Pakistan in Pakistan.
And we always,
it was
both countries always spoke about how the two extra players made a difference.
Before that, in a series, and which I went and saw amongst the most dramatic test matches that I've seen, 1986 or 80.
West Indies, Pakistan.
West Indies, Pakistan.
They won by one wicket.
He called neutral umpires
Pilu
from India.
Pilu Reporter
and V.K. Ramaswamy.
V.K. Ramaswamy, correct.
And Imran Khan getting into an altercation with Pilu Reporter and Javed Miada trying to pacify him.
Javed can speak Gujarati little
He can
bit.
speak, he's a Kathiawadi.
So, Kathiawadi. So he was able to be the... He was taking Pilu's side because he doesn't like Imran.
So for somebody to advocate and he insisted on neutral umpires, not just for his team, but for the sport. And
it actually blossomed from there.
It blossomed from there. So he was the prime mover in this.
Maybe like Martin Crowe, Imran Khan has not been given his due in terms of world cricket. Huh?
I think more than Martin Crowe, he got his due. I mean, Imran was, a big star.
As a
wherever he
visionary,
played.
not as a cricketer.
Correct. So I think Martin Crowe had more, thoughts, or was a more thoughtful man where batting technique and stuff was concerned. And of course, the pinch hitter in the 1992 World Cup. But Imran...
Deepak Patel at the top.
Margaret
Batch at the top
Margaret
as well.
Batch at the top. And he himself was opening in that.
And is it true he sort of invented the T20 format? He had a 10 max game similar to this, Supermax game, where you basically minimalize the time, etc.
Correct. Yes, because you see, in New Zealand, there was not much demand for cricket.
There were four sports: rugby, and
exactly.
Immigrants.
Exactly. And it's a thinly populated country. The base
less
of
than 4 million.
The base of cricketers is not enough.
They beat us, Ayaz. They beat us with less than 4 million.
Absolutely.
That's Prabha Devi is more people.
But the current New Zealand team is fantastic.
It's a pretty good team.
It's a very good team.
And that boy Kane Williamson, he doesn't get his due. He's fantastic.
He is fantastic.
All wicket player.
He's an all-wicket player. He's a player you love to watch. You can
a little old-fashioned, quiet, soft-spoken. His batting is like that.
And yet he's a very modern cricketer.
Yeah.
He's not wasting time. He's finding the gaps. He's scoring runs. He's running quick singles. And I think he's a jump ahead as a captain. He lost in the semis.
Yeah.
But that's fine. But he's 26. He's a year younger than, I think, Kohli and Steve Smith.
Correct. But these three are the big names to look out for.
And Joe Root.
Joe Root. Oh, God, I'm a big Joe Root fan.
Who would have thought Joe Root would be even playing limited
2 years ago,
cricket?
nobody thought he could hit the ball in the air.
Exactly.
And
I saw him on his debut. I think the match was at Ranchi. I'm not, the test match against India, which is the series which England won.
And clearly a test batsman raised in England.
Yes.
In Yorkshire tradition. Len Hutton of today.
And I think Joe Root actually symbolizes the massive change that is coming into English cricket and English cricket thinking. Part of it has to do with Andrew Strauss, just to kind of talk about the World T20 which just got over. And England being in the final itself was remarkable because last year in the 50 over...
and one of the poorest records coming in terms of T20 and hardly getting to play.
Yes.
As well.
But
I think West Indies and them both play the least, 9 and 8 games in the year.
Correct. But the West Indies was packed with T20 specialists.
Who play across the globe.
These guys actually picked players, foregoing or leaving aside players who were otherwise regulars in the ODI team and said, let's go with a bunch who can win us.
And
matches.
4-5 of them are pure T20 specialists at the moment. If you look at Jordan only as a death bowler, they're not going to play him in the test at the moment.
Or Jason Roy.
Jason Roy at the top.
Yeah.
Alex Hales has been given a test chance now in the last season, but formerly just a T20 player and a one-day specialist.
Correct. So what's emerging is that in the T20 format now it's becoming clear that you'll need some power hitters like a Braithwaite to go there and uncluttered mind, or
what was that about? Who hits 4 sixes in the last over of a final? It's like swatting flies.
Good God! But there was
what happened to Ben Stokes? I thought Ben Stokes is just fantastic. I've been following Ben Stokes and I'm a huge fan.
And you know how superbly he bowled in the semi-final.
And the last season on those wickets in the Gulf in South Africa, of course.
It's just one of those days. But I think you have to give credit to the batsman because if not, there's
why didn't he try to bowl a little shorter though? Why didn't he just change the length at some point? All 4 balls was somewhat goodish length and enough for him.
So I think he was trying to bowl Yorkers. I think he perhaps misjudged the height of Braithwaite, who's a giant of a man, and also his power. One of those 4.
The first one was a flick. That was a little different.
Yeah, but the flick can even, you can use
No,
the
I would
pace.
say he was going down leg side, so that was like an error.
But you use the pace of the ball and you swing it over a square leg. The second hit, in my opinion, was actually a bit of a miss hit. He was trying it
went
straighter.
over long
it
on.
went over long off
Yeah.
instead of long on or
Right.
straight, But that was the power of the man.
There's also the bats.
The bats. But what I want to emphasize here, Cyrus, is that T20, a lot of people thought it's got very, it has so many deleterious effects that it's going to ruin batsmanship. But in the same era, you've got a Virat Kohli, a
Joe
Steve
Root,
Smith, a Joe Root,
Kane Williamson,
David Warner.
David Warner, yes.
These guys are fantastic in all formats.
Marlon Samuels, if he gets
Marlon
his game
Samuels.
together, he's a fantastic
Marlon
bat.
Samuels.
Yeah.
So they're also thriving.
Yeah.
And
so
I
the
think
best will thrive in all conditions.
They will, and therefore, what else will happen is that you'll get more results in test matches because batsmen have become more adventurous.
And they'll finish the test match in 3 days because they're batting at that pace.
The old theory of first session of a test match, you take 2 hours to get the shine of the ball. Never mind if the score is 45.
That's gone out of the window.
It's
But
gone out of the
the
window.
ball doesn't swing that much. With the wickets, they don't
Not
allow
if,
them
you,
to swing.
not if you see a Mohammad Amir.
Yeah,
So,
in
you know-
Bangladesh, but didn't get the kind of swing in India.
Correct. Not if you see a James Anderson in
Again,
England.
in seeming conditions, slightly negated in the Gulf, for example.
So the Kookaburra, there's something to do with the seam. I think there's work to be done by the
I'd
administrators.
love to watch like a Terry Alderman bowling to one of the modern batsmen in Headingley with the ball swinging, if it was possible.
Even a Kapil Dev.
Or even a Kapil Dev at his best,
a great bowler, or
He's
an
swinging it
Imran
both ways. Or
Khan.
Imran Khan swinging it both ways, in and out.
And of course,
Or Jimmy Anderson, who's as good as anyone.
and one and only Wasim Akram.
Okay, Wasim Akram's unplayable. We won't get into that.
I must tell you this, which I saw on television, and I think it's 1996 or 1998. Mark Taylor is batting.
The triple century
No, not the triple. Yeah, the triple century series.
This is 97, yeah.
Correct. The match. It's a match in Karachi, test match.
Yeah.
Just after he's made a 100, Pakistan really intent or wanting to win the match to, I think, square the series or win the
Right.
series, whatever it was. And Wasim Akram bowled him a 6-7 over spell where Mark Taylor
Didn't touch it.
didn't touch the ball. He was moving it in, he was moving it out, he was mixing the short deliveries with the Yorkers. It was, I haven't seen an exhibition.
And just off a small run up most of the time.
And he didn't get a wicket.
Yeah.
So that is also the beauty of Test cricket. You're a great fan of cricket and Test cricket. You just watch that spell you watch that 1 hour's play, and I must say this: it's like multiple orgasms.
Which of course you've experienced, Ayaz Memon, not us. We would know, my viewers would not know. Tell us about the orgasms. I think we're getting too much into cricket and losing our comedy here for a second. Let's get more orgasms involved.
No, what I'm saying is the kind of the
We
joy.
saw a bit of that in Trent Bridge in the Ashes last year.
Yes.
When he took Broad got the 6 wickets, the ball was swinging like a banana
or
again.
even when Anderson and Broad and gang bowled against India.
Yeah. Oh God, that series where Rahul got all the runs.
I mean,
they're improving. Who is a great batsman?
In the 2011 series, in the 2014 series, playing in England, we stumbled against swing.
Right.
And just the ability of bowlers to swing the ball late is so marvelous. How they grip the ball, what do they do? How do they cock the wrist at the
And once they
time of
know they
delivery?
can get the swing, the body language changes completely. It's
changes.
just so much fun to watch.
So this is one area where I feel that India is actually
But that T20 has just killed that for me a little bit. Like Atherton versus Alan Donald, if you remember from the late 90s.
Correct.
That one, what a spell that was. Where he hit him and he bowled short into his ribs and he swung the ball away from him, everything. And the fellow, there was 2 wrong decisions, but the point is, for about 2 or 3 hours he batted.
So
through that barrage.
that's one area, you're absolutely right. That's one area where T20 does not
We can't get that.
does not encourage swing bowling because you can't have 3 slips in place.
Well, you can.
You can. No, what I'm saying is that because then you have too many unguarded, untenanted, batsmen will chance their arm.
Okay, Ayaz, I want to get back into your biopic, which I'm trying to make here. We're talking cricket and we'll get back to that as well. But as we go into a break, one question. Just think about this. West Indies won the T20 World Cup 2016, but they lost to Afghanistan.
Yes.
Does that mean by transitive property, Afghanistan is the world's best team because they're the team that beat the team that won?
I'm not saying that they're the world's best team, but I think they're the most
Underrated.
Underrated and a
I
very
love
courageous
that guy.
team.
Mohammadi, Shahzad Mohammadi, I love that guy. I just love his body language.
And what it tells you, 2 things. One is that the shorter the game, the more level the playing field. Anybody can beat anybody
And
in the
also
T20
that there's a little
format.
talent in that country.
There's talent. And I feel that the ICC is doing something which is not, it should not be doing at all by not taking these smaller
I
countries.
think Zimbabwe should be put down and Afghanistan should be put up because they're rising faster than
And
anybody.
the other, and this is a contentious thing which I want to put up, is that actually the BCCI should take
Let them play Ranji.
let them play the IPL. Pick their 4 best players. Let them play in the IPL. Maybe the Ranji, but IPL is showcasing talent.
Correct.
This is what they're used to, the T20.
It's the Ranji of today. We can't run away from that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And maybe then 2 from Ireland, 2 from Scotland. So the BCCI...
Now this sounds like one of the songs. Dun, 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 dun. All right, we have to take a break. Ayaz, lots more to talk about when we come back. But remember, Shehzad Mohammadi is the son of Arjuna Rantunga and David Boone. If you saw those two back together, then they could produce a child. We'll take a break. When we come back, Ayaz Memon, the early years.
Hey guys, this is Malika Singhania, co-founder of the blog Stylogram, where we cover trends, fashion forecasts, celebrity style, tips and tricks, and lots more cool stuff. So tune in every Thursday to the Stylogram podcast, your weekly style telegram, giving you the latest fashion and beauty stories that are relevant to you. You can also subscribe to our show on iTunes, SoundCloud, Audio Boom, or any other local podcast app. See you soon.
Back here with Ayaz, and so much to talk about in terms of cricket and things like that. But while we talk about modern cricket and what he's seen, I want to keep going back to the Cub reporter, that romantic time in his life. He had no idea he would want to be editor of many newspapers, magazines, write books, be a commentator, travel the world, be on first name basis with people like Kiran Pollard, who calls him, to his house when he's in Trinidad anytime. And I mean, look at how your life is. I mean, literally, they all know you. A whole generation has grown up reading you, and so they probably respect you and talk to you with a typical subcontinental respect. But let's go back a little bit. So KN Prabhu was your idol, or sort of the guy who was a catalyst for you. What happens then in your career?
So I get a break in the sense I get to cover the 1982-83 series, just about 3 years into the profession.
And, what was the reception like? The famous Mehmani culture of Pakistan, lovely.
Oh, that was fantastic. And I actually crossed over to Pakistan on foot. I went across the Wagah border.
1 foot?
No, both feet.
Was it like you lost a bet?
No, it was not like the 1981 game where you pushed back.
Oops. Yeah.
And I remember there was another journalist with me, Javed Akhtar, who was a former basketballer.
Right.
And,
not to be confused with the writer.
Not the right, no, not at all.
Yeah.
So,
who in Rajya Sabha the other day said, Bharat Mata ki jai.
Yes, absolutely.
They're two different people, yeah.
And the most vivid memory I have, not of the series, but as soon as we crossed over and we went through customs, and because it was a 3-month tour, I had taken a bag full of magazines with me, which were...
Dirty magazines.
No, these were film magazines.
Tell the truth. We don't have to just talk cricket.
Film magazines.
Was it Hustler? Was it Playboy?
Not at all.
You're a Penthouse generation. I can see Penthouse in your eyes. It was Penthouse. White House?
I wish it was true, but it wasn't. Anyway.
Mayfair.
These were all old film magazines. 6 months, 8 months. I said, kya karenge?
Those were the days when the film magazines were huge.
Huge. And also general magazines. India Today, Sunday.
Right.
Bag full of them. Maybe about 50, 60 magazines.
Right.
So this guy, a customs officer, looked at this and said, what? So many magazines? I said, it's a 3-month tour. What do I read in the nights? He said, no, you can't. This is literature which might influence our people. So we will not allow you to take the film magazines and the political magazines. So there it went. But I was happy because about 10 kilos went, I was...
So basically he took all the magazines home to read because he's a big film buff.
He took all the magazines home.
Yeah.
But that was
But when you cross the Wagah border by foot, you actually walk and what like the...
Yeah, you walk.
Their jawans sort of escort you.
Well, there's a... handing over a paper showing them, and I didn't see the famous march past with the soldiers from either side do that dramatic march
the leg
past.
going up and down.
I think that happens only at a certain time in the day. But we crossed over. We had to wait about a couple of hours because there was a huge queue of people going from India into Pakistan, and then we got some preference because we were journalists. Arey aap to sahafi hai, which means aap patrakar hai, journalist hai. So we got to jump the queue a bit.
They weren't bad times in India-Pakistan politics. So 81.
No, these were
the early Zia was okay.
These were the good years. Actually, Zia had initiated the 1978 tour.
And Imran Sani were good friends. They were great
friends.
Diplomats for the countries, all that.
And the Sharjah circus had begun. Right. So they were meeting and playing each other in Sharjah virtually twice a year.
Did they get along, Indians and Pakistani cricketers?
Very, very, very well. Actually, they got along very well. On the field, you had these moments of serious confrontation, but otherwise they got along very well. And they had, like Dilip Vengsarkar and
Javed Mehta are still very good friends.
Very good friends, thick friends. Imran and Gavaskar were a very big, very strong mutual admiration society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And slightly aloof with their own teammates.
Yeah,
very similar actually.
And both were very senior.
And super gods in the team and all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How was my Vishy?
Vishy was everybody's favourite. He's been everybody's favourite wherever he has gone, whoever he's played with.
Amongst the finest batsmen you've seen in sheer talent?
There's no doubt about it. I think he's...
Chepauk?
He's Chepauk.
And 97?
And Melbourne, 114.
Melbourne, 114.
Yeah, so, he's been amongst the most unsung of the great players.
Yeah.
from India because people still tend to go by average. It's not bad in the mid-40s for players of that generation.
93 tests, 1400. Should have done more, but
he never kind of played for his average or his century.
Was he ever dwarfed by the Gavaskar thing on his head? Because the two names were always compared, and the statistics will always show Gavaskar ahead.
Difficult to say psychologically whether he was dwarfed or not, but in sheer numbers he was certainly. I think they were neck and neck till about 3,000 runs. Because they...
And then Gavaskar cleared his neck a bit.
Yeah. So, but Vishy, I think, perhaps was not as, I won't say serious, but he didn't look after himself as well as he should have for playing
Perhaps
that long.
not as ambitious also.
Perhaps not as ambitious.
But in terms of quality, you rate him as high as Gavaskar? Just sheer talent. Let's not say performance.
I would say on sheer talent, certainly as high. But ultimately, when you assess a cricketer, you have to look at the body of work, and then Gavaskar races ahead.
Also, Gavaskar in certain conditions would be better, you would think? On
Vishy,
seaming conditions, how would you rate Vishy against John Snow in seaming conditions, for example?
Vishy was a master technician. He was also
He didn't move his feet that much.
Yeah, but he had a terrific eye, which is what I'm saying. As he grew older, by the time he hit the 30s and the early 30s, the reflexes had started to wane a little. But otherwise, he was a terrific bad wicket player. Again, 114 at Melbourne.
Against Andy Roberts.
Chepauk, and even his first century that he made on debut, he made a 0 and 139.
Correct.
So the 139
that was his career in a sense.
That
symbolic.
Was his career. That was
symbolic
his career.
Of everything. Let's go back to Ayaz and we'll get lost in all these cricket idols of ours. But now you've gone to the tour and you're a hard-nosed journalist. You're covering it. You finish the tour. What happens now to your career? Now you established. Is that it? No more law. No more other options.
Yes. So then in the meanwhile I was kind of not appearing for my law exams whenever because I was on a tour.
Right.
So I would come back and I would say, when is the next exam? The exam would be in April and October, as you know.
Yeah. Clashes with the cricket, man.
Clashes with the cricket. And so I did complete my Bachelor of General Law in 1983, which took a fair while after
Not
joining
knowing what
law
was
school.
to come cricketing-wise in 83, which was changed the globe forever.
And I went to the World Cup in 1983. That is, still remains...
And no idea that we would win it, obviously.
No idea at all. It was just kida.
Did we take it seriously? Was the Indian team serious? For the first half, they couldn't, they just playing and thought nothing of it and then suddenly realized they were in it.
Look, you entered the field to try and win a match, obviously, but I don't think they believed it themselves that they could win the title.
They had beaten West Indies in Berbice in an international, if I remember correctly, prior to that. Fair and square.
But look at the track record. In 1975, the only team we beat was East
Kenya.
Africa.
Yeah.
Or Kenya then.
As it was called, yeah.
And in 79, we lost every match.
Yeah.
We were actually the dull dogs of international cricket as was...
And we had the 36 not out, which was scarred everybody.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, 1980, in fact, I went and saw the first match of the World Cup, not India versus West Indies at Old Trafford. I went to the Oval to watch England play New Zealand for one reason. I'd heard so much about Martin Crowe.
They made 334 or something, remember correctly? It was a huge score.
Huge score. And Martin Crowe was the young upcoming batsman.
The White Richards.
Yes. And, he signed up for Somerset. He was a young talent. And he made some 80, but a fantastic knock. And I thought that West Indies will trounce us.
Yeah.
And that match didn't end in one day. It spilled over into the next day because of rain, India versus West Indies.
Yeah.
And when I got to know the score, I said, shit, what the hell is happening here? And next day, India beat the West Indies.
Yeah.
And then I had actually decided I'll go and see the best matches rather than go and see India matches.
Correct.
But hasty revision there, and I said, now I have to go and see all India matches.
Tunbridge Wells, were you there?
Absolutely.
You saw every ball?
No, I didn't see every ball, and I must be upfront.
Ayaz, what was the lady's name? And tell us exactly what happened.
No, you see, I went from London to Tunbridge Wells, and because I was really short on funds, I miscalculated. I said I'll take an off-peak ticket, which will be 50%.
This is the Indian in you, boy. This is the problem with our culture, even there.
And
we had to be cheap.
I missed one train. I got the next one, which meant I reached about 15-18 minutes late. Mm-hmm. And as you enter the ground, Tunbridge Wells, actually you hit the dressing rooms first, the pavilion.
Right.
And I walked in and, there was a big, when I say big crowd, maybe about 4,000-5,000 people.
Yeah.
Because it's a small county ground.
Right.
And I ran into Vishy, who had just... he had not retired, but he was not part of the...
He was on his last
team.
legs, yeah.
And I looked at the score. I asked Vishy what's happening. He said, no, nothing to worry. Don't worry. I said, what is he talking about? No worry. I looked at the score, 9 for 4. Kapil Dev
walks in.
Yeah. 17 for 5.
Kinmani.
And I watched for about half an hour, 45 minutes there. I remember the second or third boundary that Kapil Dev hit, and something told me this is going to be
a special day.
Not knowing how special it would be, and I went to the tent. It was a tent which was the press box then. And after that, there was just magic. So 175 not out.
Was it clean hitting?
It was fantastic hitting. I mean,
What an eye player he was.
Look at the pressure of the situation.
Yeah.
And remember, he was not Viv Richards or Sehwag or Tendulkar. He was not your specialist batsman.
No.
He was a number 6 batsman, the all-rounder.
But he could give it an awful
which is
tonker.
why I believe that that's the greatest one-day innings played, given the
Richards
circumstances.
is 189. It was also 7 down.
But
Holding comes in.
That's Viv Richards.
Okay, from that point of view.
From that point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, Sehwag has made a double hundred. Rohit has made 2 double hundreds. And the game has changed. The bats have become better. But
And the boundaries are in. Let's not get into that because that debate will never end.
And Rawson and Kevin Curran really
decent bowlers.
In
In conditions that suited them.
Conditions that
Seeming,
suited them.
at least initially.
So that really transformed the World Cup. And after that, wherever India went, they were becoming,
Suddenly people took us seriously.
And Indians living in England took the Indian team seriously, and there were big crowds. And obviously, you must have seen that placard at Old Trafford. Kapil Dev eats Botham for breakfast, which is what happened at the semi-final when we beat them. And then, of course, there was the final. And I must tell you, again, the final, I reached in the first over. As I ran into Grace Gates at Lord's.
Again, may I ask, were you trying to save money
No.
and do connecting trains and tubes and all that? I mean, what the hell, yeah? It's the final.
In fact, I had learnt a lesson at going to Tunbridge Wells. So, but I was staying at Surbiton in Surrey. And I said, I may not make it, if I change tubes and all that, which was a big mistake I made. So I hopped into a black cab.
Oops.
And I paid some 50 pounds.
My
then, which
God.
was like
I hope you billed it to the editor.
broke my back, or broke my wallet at least. But I reached in, and there was this big roar because in the first over,
Gavaskar
out.
Yeah.
And I ran up the steps. The Lord's press box now is called Sherry Blair's Lips, but in the old days,
Ayaz Memon.
in the old
How
days,
dare you do the comedy?
in the old days, the press box was at square leg,
Right.
or long leg, and I was running up, and Richie Benaud was coming down, and he says, "You want to lay a bet?" I said, "What?" He's saying 66-1 for India, and I was tempted to put 10 pounds. And I said, no, this is 10 pounds down the drain. This is West Indies we are playing. Never mind if we beat
West
them
Indies
in the first
with
match.
Greenwich, Haynes, Viv Richards, Clive Lloyd, all in their pomp. The 4 fast bowlers and 3 waiting in the
The dream team. You haven't had a better team
in
than
English
that.
conditions where they
In
all
English
thrived.
conditions.
Yeah.
And then look what happened. But I must mention this to you. I didn't have accreditation for the World Cup final because
They stopped Gavaskar, they didn't stop you.
no, I didn't have. Lord's is MCC is a club on its own,
Correct.
so you can get accreditation to every ground in England, but not
not
to
them.
MC.
Yeah.
MCC you have to apply separately. And when I went to England, landed there, they didn't give me accreditation. They said only if your team is in the final, can you come. So when India reached the final, I went there, and I said I want to be there in the final.
Yeah.
And these the people who are there
The
in
marshals,
charge, the marshals in charge. One is telling the other, oh, now we've got Gandhi coming to Lord's. Because
Oops.
Ben Kingsley's movie had become the rage.
Not knowing how politically incorrect
How
that was.
politically
Yeah.
incorrect it was. But it caused me to smile a bit. Because
Modi coming to Lord's would make sense because the man travels.
Yeah. So...
Okay, I want to go to freewheeling 10 minutes now and ask you all the favourite questions which any cricket fan would love to hear. Starting with the World Cup triumphs. Now, you've seen 83.
Yeah.
You've seen 2007 T21. You've seen 2011, our second World Cup win. Which was the biggest one for you? Which is the one that, if there is one defining moment, which is the one that Ayaz Memon enjoyed?
1983. 1983.
Wouldn't you say that changed it for us completely?
It changed
Until then,
it.
we always were like the second, the runner-up sort of feeling?
It changed not just for us. I think it changed the sport. Because India suddenly, not suddenly, but over the next 5-7 years,
Mushroomed into...
it became the El Dorado.
They play cricket in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha as we speak.
Absolutely.
Everywhere.
It became the El Dorado for the sport. Where cricket was struggling everywhere else in the world. India suddenly became the epicenter of the game, and that is because of the 1983 World Cup. But I must also mention 1987, the Reliance Cup.
Yeah.
So I saw both the semi-finals.
Yeah.
I was doing the Pakistan leg of the
Correct.
tournament, so I was there, and I saw Pakistan lose to Australia in the semi-final. Shockingly, I've never seen a Gaddafi stadium
Imploded.
shocked into silence, and then people weeping. And I took a chartered flight. There was a chartered flight.
The way you said it, yeah, fair enough. Okay.
There was a chartered flight which was supposed to bring the Pakistan players.
For the final.
Incidentally, because we talked about Imran Khan earlier, so I was ghosting Imran Khan's column.
Oh, really?
Yes. Which was...
So much for Oxbridge education. Xavier's is better.
He
That's what
didn't
it
have the
proves.
time. But this is... So after the match, the Pakistan dressing room was locked and it was sullen. obviously. And there was a guy standing out and he said...
So what do you ask him?
And he said, नहीं जा सकते आप अंदर.
And he was known to be moody, right?
Very moody, yeah. He said, आप अंदर नहीं जा सकते. The man outside.
Yeah.
I said, but...
Column लिखना है अभी.
He's saying, मैं खान साहब को पूछ के आता हूँ. So Khan साहब said, आ जाओ अंदर. I went and, the Pakistan team looking everywhere.
Like a funeral.
Everywhere except at Imran, looking at their shoes, kit bag. Anyway, he spoke to me, obviously very disappointed. And then he said, वो plane जा रही है कलकत्ता वाया Bombay. There was a chartered flight.
Correct.
जिसको जाना है कलकत्ता ताली बजाने वो जाए मैं नहीं जा रहा हूँ. And not one Pakistan cricketer came. Obviously.
Yeah.
But I was on that flight. I came here, went to Wankhede the next day.
And saw Mike Gatting take a catch.
No.
They went 150,000 feet in the air.
Correct. And saw Graham Gooch sweep us out of the World Cup.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I went to the final at Kolkata, and that told
me...
Saw
the rebirth of Australia.
Saw the rebirth, and also 90,000 people watching England versus Australia.
Well, we had a similar, almost 60,000 in the new revamped stadium for the T20 final, which shows that India is not as jingoistic as we think. There are enough people like you and me who really like the game and will go and watch it.
The passion for the sport, there is no doubt in India. Yeah. And don't forget, we are 120 crore.
What the hell? We have to back some team or the other. All right, let's quickly go to the most difficult questions in cricket. Now, of course, how can you answer this? Favorite batsman that you've seen?
Viv Richards.
Still number one?
Still number one.
No helmet, nothing?
No helmet. Gum chewing.
What he did for West Indies cricket.
What he did for world cricket. Yeah. And the way he played the game.
I can't think of a more macho symbol than Viv Richards in sport.
Absolutely.
Walking out, strutting.
So, while there were the 4 fast bowlers and there was, Clive Lloyd holding the team together, the stamp of authority came from Viv
Did he
Richards.
really intimidate bowlers? Do you think they actually got scared of him?
Absolutely.
With his body language, not just the boundaries.
Yeah, his body language and of course the power of his strokes and the way he played them. If with the current equipment that you've got, the bats and 65 yard boundaries.
No bouncer, although he would have loved the bouncer.
He would have.
How do you think Gary Sobers would have done in T20? Is it possible to ever think like that?
So now you've
opened a can of worms.
Gary Sobers, in my opinion, greatest cricketer ever.
Did you get to see him, Ayaz?
Yes. One of the first matches I saw, 1966. CCI. And unforgettable. Gary Sobers had a very peculiar gait. I think he had one leg which was a little shorter.
The knees were already odd, yeah.
Yes. But terrific batsman, great bowler, and great sportsman. I remember, and something that made me love the sport even more. I was very young, impressionable, 10, 11 years old. Budhi Kundran caught in the leg trap.
Wicketkeeper batsman. Very quick bat as well.
Yeah, caught in the leg trap in India trying to save the match, not doing it successfully. Umpire gives him out. Gary Sobers is the fielder, throws the ball up. And as soon as he catches it, signals to the umpire, not out.
Yeah.
And Budhi Kundran bats on, makes 79.
Different times,
I will never forget that. And the kind of skills that he had, wondrous. What a great catcher, what a great bowler, spin bowling, fast bowling.
Left arm orthodox as well, left arm Chinaman as well.
Finished the match in time to go to the races. So
what an era.
What an era. 6 sixes when it was, to think of hitting 6 sixes, forget about doing it. To even imagine that you can hit 6 sixes was...
And that full swing of a bat, I think Lara had a bit of that. The bat comes down from God knows where.
Lara had a bit of the Sobers touch in him.
The flamboyance in the way the bat fell down.
But a much smaller made man. Gary Sobers was...
Okay, so this is a very difficult thing. Let's not compare. Let's move on. So best bowler that you've seen. Or let's say best fast bowler and best spinner separately. Best fast bowler that you've seen?
Best fast bowler that I've seen would be I would say Malcolm Marshall.
At his peak.
At his peak.
Yeah.
A
fractured hand running through England.
On Indian pitches in 1983.
Oof.
Unplayable.
Were you there when he took Gavaskar's leg stump, was it? Or off stump on Calcutta? First ball of the test?
Yes. And also he got, Gavaskar at Kanpur. When he tried to defend off the back foot and the bat fell out of his hand. That's when India lost the series in the first match.
Right.
If Gavaskar's bat could fall off,
4 wickets,
it psychologically ruined
on our wickets.
On our wickets.
And they were really slow in those days.
Indian supporters were devastated. Leave aside the dressing room, what may have happened.
And it was a devilish run-up. That angular run-up also just added to the myth.
Yes. So, for me, it is a
Dennis
very close
Lilly, Jeff Thompson?
Jeff Thompson never played in India.
Yep.
Lilly never played in India.
So for not being subcontinental players, they don't get the extra
Lilly,
points.
when he played in Pakistan, struggled very badly.
And didn't want to bowl.
Didn't want to bowl.
Correct.
So, the best bowling I have seen is from guys like Malcolm Marshall, obviously. Wasim Akram. And in my opinion, Imran Khan in that series is unforgettable.
Which brings us to the best all-rounders, and we'll come to spinners in a second. Best all-rounder of the big four that you got to see?
So the Big Four, I got to see them at their prime, and I think at that point in time when I saw them, 1982-83, it was definitely Imran. In that series, he made a lot of runs
With
against
bat
us.
and ball.
With bat and
And
ball.
he had skipper duties as well.
Correct. He was not the most naturally
Gifted athlete.
athlete.
Yeah.
Kapil Dev was perhaps the most gifted athlete.
Yeah.
And maybe Botham, a younger Botham.
Yeah.
Richard Hadley was the most hardworking, the
Yeah.
most meticulous. But Imran had he was very English in his cricket and therefore very organized.
Where would you place Jacques Kallis if you had to compare?
Very highly. I mean, Jack Cullis, I think, was a great all-rounder. There's no doubt about it. But he also played in a team. Imran, like Kapil
Carried
Dev,
everything.
Carried everything. They just and Richard Hadley raised
But
their
come on,
team's
Botham
cricket.
had so many special moments.
Botham also.
I mean, he reignited cricket in England single-handedly.
No doubt. I mean, it's very difficult to compare these four because
Yeah.
they had moments which are unforgettable.
Okay,
in their
best
career.
spinner, Ayaz. We're running out of time. I have only 5 minutes. Best spinner?
For sheer watching pleasure.
Wani.
Well, Wani certainly as a bowler, but just for sheer watching pleasure, Bishan Singh Bedi. Magic.
With that, just the flight.
Yeah, and the
And where the ball
languid run
lands.
up and the sheer rhythm and
Prasanna,
symmetry.
Chandra?
Great bowlers, but visual pleasure, Bedi, and as an all-time
Marlon
great spinner-
Samuel says yes. You are right. He prefers Bedi to Warren any time of the day.
No, but Vaughan as a wicket-taking bowler and for his psychological jousts with batsmen
and again, to give the game such a fillip.
and everywhere, except in India, playing against not just
Where are our leg spinners? What
not
are our
just
leg
Sachin
spinners?
Tendulkar, but also Navjot Singh Sidhu. Don't forget
I think
him.
more Navjot Singh Sidhu,
Yes.
who started the attack against him.
And Anil Kumble. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
take anything away.
Highly underrated, like Lakshman with
unsung.
the bat.
Like Vishy.
Like
You know,
Vishy.
I think two guys who need a lot of credit in Indian cricket, and we've won a lot of matches in the last 10-12 years
Yeah.
because of them. They're both bowlers. Anil Kumble, Zahir Khan.
Fair enough. All right. Before we let you go, favorite commentator, Ayaz, because that's what you're doing now. You're more a commentator than a writer almost. So who's your favorite? And we go back to the radio years, which is a totally different
Yeah.
experience altogether.
Well, John Arlott certainly stands out, and that combination of him and Brian Johnston is is a pair that is unforgettable. We all got weaned on their commentary. Tony Cozier, because of it was so distinctive, the Caribbean twang that he had. I also liked Alan McGilvray a lot. The Aussie commentator. But we've had some terrific
Christopher Martin
commentators. Jenkins, but we've had some terrific guys from India.
Yeah.
Anand Setalwad in commentary.
Suresh Saraya comes to mind. Why are you laughing? He's very good. Yeah.
I mean, Harsha Bhogle. He's been a
Harsha
terrific-
Bhogle before the change in the hairstyle. Ayaz Memon laughs. Ayaz Memon, thank you so much. We are running out of time. But
Thank
cricket with
you.
you, I mean, there's no point. I can't stop talking. I'm just like manna from
we'll
heaven.
call it stumps only for now. We'll
call it
start
stumps.
playing
Because the
again
third
someday.
umpires thing, they got to get on with something else. But before we go, we have an AMA section. We'll quickly run you through that. There's just 2 or 3 questions. And we have Amit who's going to come and take us through that. Amit.
If you have any questions for Cyrus, write to us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Or you can send an email to whatcyrussays@gmail.com.
AMA with the man himself. Ayaz, please meet Amit. Amit and I were the best runners between the wickets. Or like typical Indians, we never ran. We hit the ball. Chando! Run. All right, question time.
So the first question we have is from Shreyan Shah. And we should preface, we're recording this on the 6th of April. The question is, who is going to win the IPL this year?
Quick, who's going to win the IPL?
It's very tough to say because all teams seem to be equal.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of
And
the
there's a
IPL.
shake-up in 2-3 teams also. So
Yes, because you look, Rajasthan won it the first year, Hyderabad were last, and then next year Hyderabad won. That's how topsy-turvy T20
it's-
cricket is, and also the IPL.
And the change of personnel, it's difficult to say anything, but you have to put your head on the chopping block.
I will still plump for Mumbai Indians.
You know where the money's coming from.
You know where I live.
Yeah, you know where I live. Dare I say Kolkata Knight Riders? Shut up, boy.
Let's get you on the record as well. Who do you think is going to win?
My heart is between Mumbai Indians, as Ayaz says, but I'm a Zubin Bharucha fan, the only Parsi represented in the IPL. So from a communal point
you
of
can't
view,
sit on the fence. One team.
No, Delhi Daredevils, where he's the technical director. I think they're going to win, and they've got that special card that won the T20 finals.
Carlos
Is
Braithwaite.
Rihanna's classmate, also known as Carlos Braithwaite. So I'm going to say, and they've had a terrible IPL. If you had to look at the worst team,
Yes.
it's Delhi Daredevils.
Yes.
So let the underdog win. It's 1983 once again.
And they've got Zahir Khan as captain. Which is a bit...
Well, I don't know if that's
It's a surprise.
Great bowler, great. Let's see.
And
You never
Rahul
know.
Dravid as mentor. This is a very interesting
Yes.
combination.
So, and Zubin Bharucha, the only Parsi in the IPL. Do not forget that.
Okay, all right. The second question we have is from Hitesh Dang. Why do governments take such ridiculous decisions like turning Bihar into a dry state? Don't they realize that all they are doing is making an avenue for thugs to control the liquor trade instead of corporates?
That's all yours.
You're asking us this, young man?
Hey, listen.
I mean, I'm on your side. Firstly, a quick word on prohibition. It's never worked anywhere in the world.
It's not worked. I think it's a little silly to me.
It's a regressive concept.
I mean, maybe it's been done just because of a
populist, what they think is populist.
And also an election manifesto promise.
Yeah.
So
I think that was probably it. But I actually
is anything done in India which is not for short-term gains? I think everything is politically motivated for some particular reason. I speak the truth now. Enough is enough.
I mean,
no
you can make it. You can approach it differently. You can have more excise so that people. But
exactly,
if you're going to push people into having illicit hooch, then I think you're better off selling it legally.
Exactly, illicit hooch. I mean,
unless of course you're making money with the illicit hooch, and which means you're in tandem with that. But who's pointing fingers? Who would ever say that?
Nobody.
Who would ever say that? Thinking of which, it's time for our drink. It stumps, and Ayaz and I need to have a couple. Ayaz, last question: favorite female cricketer of all time?
Shanta Rangaswamy.
Not Diana Idilji?
And Diana Idilji. Diana Idilji, you're right.
Play funeral music.
No. But both of them played together.
There you go.
And they were the stalwarts for the women's team. Incidentally, as we talk, the Australian women's team, the elite cricketers, have got a massive pay hike.
I heard.
They've got a massive pay hike despite losing in the World T20 to the West Indies.
But they reached the final.
What I think that's the way to go, and that's a lesson for all other cricket boards. They need to recognize and
sexism can only be equalized with money.
No, they need to recognize the efforts put by the women cricketers and give them a livelihood.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But in tennis, they're still to catch up as far as the Grand Slams go.
Well, they have caught up.
They're getting closer, right?
Just about. Yeah. All right, Ayaz, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
He's going to have his own. He has his own show called All Balls.
Well, we're going to rename that. I think we're going to rethink the name.
No,
of
I
that
love
show.
the name All Balls. And just keep it, and just remember, it's not about cricket.
If you admire Cyrus's bosoms just like we do, follow Cyrus Says on Facebook and Twitter. And that's what Cyrus says.
All right, time to look at the podcast, PODCAST. It's, we have to push the pun from time to time because it's an audio medium. We can't write it for you. Hosted by the DailyPow.com's Purva Mehra, Pranoti Datta and Amit Gurbaksani. The podcast is your fortnightly lowdown on Mumbai's food and culture scenes. Plus, if you pay them money, they'll talk about your family and other animals.
Our podcasts bring all the boys to the yard, and damn right, they're better than yours. But you don't need to stand outside in the yard. Just follow IVM Podcasts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We might be on Tinder too. Just go ahead and swipe right.